I took forever tonight to get on. Supposed to start at 9:30. I mean, supposed to start at 9. We started at 9:30. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. Technology ain't for everybody, I guess. All right, let's get it started. Y'all know the deal, man. You want to partner, collaborate, sponsor, players, teams, hit me up. Hit the boy up. Plenty of talent out there, plenty of teams out there. A lot of visibility, especially in the Northeast. Hit the boy up, always working. Let's get to the horn. Listen, 3A rankings is the same as it's been. Um, don't know if they're going to do another meeting pretty soon. It's about that time. It's been a few weeks since these rankings came out. As you can see, we're gonna go ahead and just look at that New Jersey unit team. They were 11th in the NEAFL, we in the Northeast. They are the highest ranked team in the Northeast. And when I say Northeast, I mean anything north of Maryland and encompassing that whole New York, Jersey, Maine, Mass, that whole area. They're the highest ranked team. They took a L. Let's go back to that actually. Jersey unit took a L. They lost to the Philly Phantom. That's tough. That's really tough. I mean, there's a team up there, the Georgia Thrashers, but that APD league, that APDFL league, is tough. You kind of can afford a loss and still be in the conversation. Just like the TUFL, just like the FFA, those leagues are really tough. There's some real ballers out there. So, them taking an L is kind of rough, especially to the team that they lost to. Can't see them holding that 11 spot. But we're going to talk a little more about national rankings in a little bit. Let's go to the 2A national rankings. We already know what the deal is. One of the things that I thought was kind of crazy when I looked at this a little deeper was that there's an Oklahoma team in there. I mean, and there's a Tulsa team in there. So, there's some teams out west that are balling right now. Just always strange to me that we don't really see too many California teams, and they got a lot of football happening out in Cali. Just one of those things. I really want to see if I can get in touch with some people out west and get their take on. I know Arizona, they got some ballers, man. They got some ballers. Not too many of them in semi-pro level. A lot of those guys out there playing arena football. A lot of those guys are playing in these pop-up minor leagues. They're like professional leagues that pay very good salaries. I mean, $200,000-$300,000 for 2-3 years worth of service, but they don't stick around for too long. But you get a lot of talent in those leagues, not really in semi-pro. CT Falcons, we won a couple games. We won them big. I think we're sitting at 7-1 right now, overall record. So if you look, with a 7-1 record, it puts us up there with some of the top teams. You look at the Electric City Chargers, Chattanooga Eagles, Camden County Titans. They're the only teams with 7 wins. Virginia Beast as well. So we should be able to represent. But Long Island Eagles is still undefeated. They've been undefeated, I think, for 2.5 years now. They did lose down in Florida to the Sumter Sharks, but as far as playing in the Northeast, they're unbeaten. So I think they're rolling on something like 20 plus wins right now. So they should be representing for the Northeast as well. We'll move on a little bit to the IFA Power Rankings. CT Falcons finally did it. Another one of those weird situations. So the main machine was supposed to come to Connecticut, play the Falcons. They ended up forfeiting. They closed shop, said they're not playing for the rest of the season. We talked about this last week. Falcons got the win for that, but also due to the whole national conversation, Falcons could not afford to take a bye. They could not afford to not play a game. So they had to find a game to play. Kudos to the Mass Chargers. They said that they'll make the trip down. They were supposed to play the Connecticut Reapers. Changed the schedule, came down to Connecticut. We beat them 20-zip. Starting quarterback didn't get there to the fourth quarter. We struggled at first. We found some success in certain places, but we fumbled the ball off the snap a lot. We threw a bunch of interceptions. We just looked terrible and still won 20-zip. So congratulations to us. So basically what it did was it gave us an extra game. That extra game gave us a 30-point lead over the Cardinals. Cardinals is still that team though. Like honestly, once it's all said and done and all the teams have played 6 games, it's really a toss-up between the Falcons and the Cards. I think really what it comes down to is how both teams play in the next couple games, which brings me to the conversation a little early. The Falcons have a big game this week. We're gonna talk about that. Bearcats, 3-1. They lost to the Warhawks. That's tough. That defense said that they were a defense. They told me all week. They said we are the best defense in the league. Well, that offense is kind of bad. And they were playing a really good football team. You're going to give up some points against a team of that caliber. And they were unable to score any points. I think it was 21-0. They lost that game to the Warhawks. Another big game, Cardinals, Patriots. As you can see, the Patriots are 2-2. I mean, Cardinals got some dogs on offense, man. I got the tape. I seen these guys just blowing by dudes. Quarterback was dotting them up. That's tough. Patriots played a great game, but they just didn't have enough to hang out with the Cardinals. They really didn't. Surprisingly, though, they only lost by 6. I think it was 14-20. Cardinals win. And the Patriots had to travel, so that goes into the conversation as well. Higher ranked team, so if they see them in the playoffs, I think the only way they would see them is in a championship game. Still gonna have to travel, so kind of tough there. Crusaders got to win. That's a big one. Crusaders beat the Huskies. I was rooting for them. Honestly, I was rooting for the Huskies earlier in the season. I was bullish on the Huskies. Thought they could have a good season. They're not having a good season. They're not. And word in the rumor mill, but it's not really much of a rumor at this point. One of their key players, a guy that was really vital to that team, he broke off and he's a part owner of a new team out of New York that's going to be entering. They said that they're going into the TFL. Not really sure. The New York Dolphins. That's going to be pretty cool to see a new team come out, especially in the springtime. Mass Chargers move up. Even with the loss, they move up just because the team that they played was better. They had more points. They've been playing a lot better than the Crusaders, but it's really, really close. 5-point difference. I mean, that's a toss-up. Them two teams see each other. That's gonna be a tough one. But that's pretty much the catch up right now in the IFA. When you look at the points, the stats, a lot of things happen, but not much change. The only thing that I will say is if you reference this back to last week, the average points for all teams in the entire league dropped. The average points allowed for all teams in the entire league dropped as well. So I'm not sure if it's because teams are slowing down or if it's just that guys are getting a little more comfortable and the level of play is going up, especially in the bottom half of the league. Definitely them guys are getting more competitive. The Chargers really played. Like they gave us a run for a little while. They made it seem like it was really competitive. I mean, I think it was 14-0 going into the fourth quarter. So they really gave their best shot at us. All right, in the TFL, Long Island Eagles, like I said, undefeated. The great thing about the TFL is that there's not a lot of teams. So try to move my face out of here really quick. There's not a lot of teams, so the competition level is constantly high every week. Every week is constantly high. Eagles played the Ducks, 26. Honestly, if you would have known the story of the Ducks starting the season and you see this score right here at mid-season, you would have said, ain't no way. Because the Ducks, I mean, their roster was decimated. And somehow Coach Ron down there rebuilt that roster. He's got that dude Cal from Long Island playing quarterback down there. That dude is a beast. They really put that roster back together, and they're a competitive team. 26 loss is not bad at all. 14-point loss to the Eagles. I saw one of the touchdowns in that game was a block punt. So if you take that block punt, which is a mistake on their behalf, away, that's a one-touchdown game. Bengals gave up 12 points to the Bengals, a team that hasn't scored all season. I think they scored one touchdown on the Green Wave week 1. Hasn't scored since. Left some question marks. The Bengals going to have to answer for that one. But the Green Wave, 3-0 win. Tell me how many times in semi-pro that you've heard a team winning 3-0. That is a rarity. I mean, that is so rare. I don't know what that's like. I guess it's like seeing frogs falling out the sky. You know what I mean? Like a 3-0 win. Apparently, it was a tied game. It was a hard fought game, and at the end, Green Wave got a good kicker, young guy. He boots 20, 30-yard field goal and hits it to win the game. I mean, that's just crazy. But this is your rankings. Bengals are the last team. Bulldogs in fifth. Green Wave in fourth. Ducks in third. Mount Vernon Bengals in second. Long Island Eagles in first. Interesting thing to note is something that we hate as a CT Falcon, but we did lose to the Green Wave in the preseason, but we also beat the Mount Vernon Bengals in the preseason. So it kind of tells you the talent level in the TFL is very, very high. Moving on to the NEAFL, another crazy game, huge upset. The New Jersey unit, we talked about it, lost to the Philly Phantom 6-0. Apparently, really windy, really rain, cold. The unit had to travel down to Philly. It was a very far game, very far travel. Couldn't pull it through. Not much else to talk about. I mean, the Jersey Jaguars are still 6-1. The Jersey Knights are still 7-1. Kind of weird to see teams that are 3-4 hold these 7-1 teams 13-0. Because when you look at the IFA, you get these huge blowouts. When you get these bad teams, bottom half teams, you get 40, 50-point blowouts. But in the NEAFL, you're seeing these really tight spreads in a lot of these games. So kind of crazy. They're late in the season. They are, I think, 2 or 3 weeks away from the playoffs. It's crunch time for them now. All right, games of the week. IFA game of the week. Seacoast Warhawks, CT Falcons. Falcons got to travel out to Commissioner Field in Dover, New Hampshire. I might have said it before. I'm going to say it again. If you could picture a field in the middle of nowhere in the Northeast, in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire, that's basically what Commissioner Field is. Like if you Google it and you look down on the map, first of all, if you Google it, nothing comes up. If you actually find the address, you look down on the map, it's just a plot of land with a football field in the middle of farms. Not excited about that. Really not excited about that. So Seacoast Warhawks got some home field advantage going on there, but hey, we're going to travel up. We're going to do our thing. We're going to talk a little bit about the logistics of this game in a second. NEAFL. Oh, skipping the steps. NEAFL game to watch. Talk to the commissioner. He said he's got 2 games. You'll see the first one on the left is the Phantoms versus the Pirates. I believe those are both Philly teams. They play each other at 8 p.m. Whoever wins that game is in playoffs compensation. Whoever loses is out. So there's a lot on the line. Same thing for the Jersey Jaguars versus the Tide. It's not so much of a you're in or out conversation as much as it's a home field advantage conversation and who do you play first round conversation. A lot on the line. Jersey Jaguars are 6-2. The Tide could go 7-2. Jags 6-2. Jags will have to play one more game than the Tide in order to match that up. But I think in the head-to-head with the records, they would have the win, so we give them the edge. That's a big game. It's probably going to be a very good game. Jersey Jaguars are a really good team. Delco Tide is a very good team as well. All right. TFL. Couldn't get a flyer from them for the game of the week, but I can tell you this. It's a rematch of a game that we saw a few weeks ago. The game that we saw was the Mount Vernon Bengals at home against the Long Island Eagles. So what we're going to end up seeing this week is the Mount Vernon Bengals against the Long Island Eagles again. But we're going to see the Mount Vernon Bengals traveling down to Long Island this time. They couldn't beat them at home. You know, they had a decent game. But I think traveling down to Long Island, if you've never been down there, it's tough. I don't know. I played in Long Island all throughout my high school career. When I first started in semi pro, I played in the TFL. I also played in MLF. I played in the 5-star. We was in Long Island a lot, frequently. And it's just something about the atmosphere in Long Island. I don't know. It's almost like traveling to the South. You know, they take football very seriously out there. The football fields are very nice. The teams are very well organized. They play very tough. They get crowds to come out to their games. Just a tough place to play. So the Bengals giving up points to the Bengals, a winless team hasn't scored on anybody else, doesn't make me confident that they're going to win this game. I really hope that they can pull it together because they have the roster. But from what I'm hearing is guys arguing on the sidelines, guys saying they're not coming back. There's brokenness in the huddle. So hopefully they get it together. That's the game of the week out of the TFL. Long Island Eagles 6-0, Mount Vernon Bengals 4-2. Bengals got to go to Long Island. All right. Let's talk a little bit about playbooks. So we're going to talk a little bit about what works in semi-pro. We're going to talk a little bit about what doesn't work. What you are seeing right here is a play that's pretty popular in semi-pro. It's just a spread with a wide shallow. Sometimes it's an 8 shallow. So the wide shallow is this guy right here on the right, second receiver. He's going to run this little crossing route underneath. They're going to attack that linebacker that will. They're looking for a cover 3 look. They're looking to get the ball underneath the linebacker. This is very popular in semi-pro. It's a very easy route to run. You basically don't have to be fast. You don't got to be a great route runner. If you are any of those things, if you're electric, it's perfect. But really, it's just a simple dump off play. It's really quick to hit. Some teams will release that running back. Some teams don't. And this particular play, that running back is released on the opposite side. So that safety is not able to get hands on this guy coming across the field. So it's a free release. This works in semi-pro because in order to defend this, you've got to have some really fast, really smart linebackers that can play in open space. There's not a lot of those guys at this level. I'm not going to lie to you. There are some. There's not a lot. If they are playing linebacker, they're undersized if they can do that. And then they're not great in the run game. So we see this a lot and it works, but it doesn't work as good as it should. What you end up having, instead of a 4 or 5 yard gain on these plays, a lot of times you either get an incompletion, you get a touchdown, or you get basically nothing. The guy gets stopped. It's like a hit or miss play. And that's not what this play was designed to do. When this play was created, it was designed to dink and dunk. This is a part of the West Coast offense style, run and gun type of style where they're just going to drop the ball underneath you. They're going to spread you out, go downfield. If you don't cover, we can go over the top, take the top off. If not, we're going to dump it down. Now, in the NFL, even at the Division I level, you see the same concept, but you see it ran a lot more effectively. It has to do with the level of talent of the quarterback. It also has to do with the speed of the receivers. The receivers are much faster. They're much better route runners. So you'll see in this play, you got 4 receivers, but you got a trip set. You got a running back swinging out to the left. Now you got a drive across the field. A drive is much different from, like a crossing route or underneath route because the drive is coming from much wider. So this guy is really starting flat and then he's gaining ground as he's getting across the field. Although you see in this picture here that left receiver comes flat, in reality, what he's doing is he's going flat underneath the third receiver on the right side. That middle receiver is running a hell of a route. What he's doing is he's stemming his way inside, getting upfield hard, and then he's putting his foot in the floor and attacking the safety. Wherever that safety is, he's running directly at that guy. So you have no support here because the corners, the linebackers are overloaded on that right side. They have to pick up all of this movement, bringing them back inside. If they don't pick it up, I mean, that's an easy hit on the seam to hit that modified post. If the linebackers don't do their job and stay home, if they work out towards the trips or they focus too much on that drive route, quarterback can just dump it over the top to that semi-dig. It's more like a rounded end. And then you also got to go on the backside. So if you got a fast guy, you got a guy that could really burn it, put him out there. Because now the corner and the safety are both occupied. They got to guard that. And what happens is you get a clear out effect. All these guys just get pushed upfield. All of them get pushed to the inside. Meanwhile, you got a guy running across the field, gaining ground. And by gaining ground, that corner now is getting ran into. So you got to think that backside corner is running directly into that end. He's running directly into those linebackers trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So if he bubbles around, he's going to get lost. Now, this is a very effective play. Now that I've shown it to you, I promise you, if you watch any NFL game, if you watch a high-level a Power Five conference game, you will see this play happen a lot. You will see this play a lot, especially in the NFL, and it works very, very well. This is a touchdown type of play. Why can't we run these plays in semi-pro? Number one, time. A lot of the times, offensive line just can't block long enough to let that drive get all the way across the field. Quarterback's running for his life. Number two, receivers aren't quite fast enough at this level. And it's not that there's not one or two receivers on the field, because there are almost always one or two receivers on the field, especially at a higher semi-pro level, that can really run. I mean, these guys are burners. The problem is that your slots can't run that fast. You'll end up with a guy out in slot that's supposed to be running this modified post, and by the time he gets to his break, that drive is already across the field. So he didn't distract anybody because he hasn't even broken out and started attacking the safety. These are the kind of struggles of a coach, of an offensive coordinator at the semi-pro level. A lot of guys will sit back and they'll look at the game and they'll say, well, why didn't he do that? Or why didn't he run that? Or why you guys aren't doing this? What they don't understand is that, at least at the semi-pro level, I would even say at the high school level, it is a lot easier to play defense and also coach defense, because what's required of the players on the defensive side is just slightly lower than what is required of the offensive players. You've got to be that much better, not just better than the man in front of you, but better than the man behind the man in front of you when you're playing offense. You got to be able to beat the DB lined up on you, and you got to be able to beat the safety that's behind them. So you got to really be a special type of player. So that's just one little teach tape that we wanted to kind of go through, a little bit of a play breakdown. One play that you see in the semi-pro level frequently, you will see this wide shallow or wide cross. Sometimes you'll see, let me go back to it. You'll see both inside receivers run the same route, just one at a different level. But in the NFL, you see this version of it. And you even see even more crazier versions. Now, let's look at the defensive side, right? Tampa 2 is a defense that even in college, you don't really see it too often. It's very difficult to understand. We actually ran it at my college, and I went to a JUCO. I went to a JUCO, and the JUCO, I mean, we just had a high level of play and high expectations. So the main principle that separates Tampa 2 from regular cover 2 or press 2 is that the corner is going to get up in your face and bump you. He's going to try to press you at the line of scrimmage. Then he's going to drop. He's going to get to the top of his zone, and he's going to play you hard, the receiver. Pause. He's going to play you hard, but his eyes are always in the backfield, and he's always looking to react to the underneath route. So in this particular picture, we see a tight end on the right side. We actually see two tight ends. He's going to drop. This corner that's closest to the bottom of the screen is going to drop. But as you can see, he's already pointed inside, because his number one priority is that basically wing or double tight end flying out. The linebackers now are flying back fast, because what they understand is that the corner is going to drop, but he's also going to come back down in what they call a sink. So he's going to drop hard, and then as soon as he sees a release route underneath, he's going to give that route up right away and come downfield and take away anything underneath. So now that means that the linebackers have to be responsible for anything in the middle part of the field. The safeties also have to play a lot closer. So you need really fast, really rangy, athletic safeties that can play this defense, because they've got to play a lot closer to the line of scrimmage, because they can't be too deep, because that corner is giving up anything middle, medium, anything 8 to 10 yards or longer, he's giving that up, and he's getting underneath it. He's sinking. So the safeties cannot create too much space. The middle linebacker has a very important job here, because he's basically playing middle fielder. He's basically acting like a free safety in cover 3. This is a very tough defense to coach, very tough defense to play in. But if you can learn it, oh God almighty, it's almost impossible to throw the ball on this, and it's almost impossible to run the ball to the outside. And in this look right here, we're seeing a 4-3 look. If you got some really fast linebackers that can feel and react very well and are disciplined, you'll have a hard time running the ball on this defense as well. Um, One of the things that we just cannot run in semi-pro, the reason we can't run this defense in semi-pro is because guys don't go to practice. This is the type of defense that you have to rep over and over and over. You got to see multiple different looks. You got to see trips. You got to see empty. You got to see double tight. I mean, you have to see everything for your eyes run through the play and then get the coaching in order to really understand this. If you did go to practice and you understood this defense, if we ran this in semi-pro, I mean, a defense that was able to run this would be dominant. I mean, it would be dominant. They'd probably be one of the best defenses that ever existed at this level of play because it's so fast, it's so rangy. It confuses the quarterback. He sees the corner dropping. He thinks, all right, I go to my next read. That corner reacts. He thinks in his head, oh, that's a great corner. He flips to the opposite side. He goes through his progression. The other corner did the same thing. And it's like, oh, man. But if you run everybody downfield, the corner stays with him. So a great read and react type of defense. All right, with that being said, we're just going to go into an open discussion, right? Anybody that's in here right now that wants to have a conversation, wants to join in, wants to talk about the IFA, anything like that, definitely. I'm going to open it up with, I spent a lot of time over the last couple of days putting together a top 10 plays. So we got a top 10 plays, all right? Kind of building out the 60 for 60 YouTube channel. We're trying to open it up. If anybody wants to join the conversation, send me a message on Facebook. I'll get you a link so that you can jump in and you can talk whatever you want to talk about, right? My boy hit me up. He goes, oh, man, you got him mad now. You got him mad now. I'm like, I don't know how I got him mad because all I did was put together whatever plays that I had available to me. I just put it into, a graphic. I did my best to rank them and the most impressive plays that I saw. Biggest plays, maybe the biggest moment. I took the biggest game that we've seen with the Cardinals and the Warhawks up to this point. They were number 1 and number 2. Or I think they were number 1 and number 3. But the Cardinals were blowing teams out. I think they blew their first teams out by 50 points or close to 50 points. The Warhawks were they blew their first teams out by 50 or 60 points. So, I mean, it was this big clash early in the year, like big, huge game. The Cardinals is a brand new team, but we know what they're made of. The Warhawks is a story team. They've been around for a while. The quarterback is a well-known guy, but they kind of picked up some players of a championship pedigree, and it just had this big storyline to it. So I kind of threw those plays in there. But listen, I've been begging for guys to send me plays. Everybody just ignored me. Truth of the matter is they just ignored me. One thing I will like to say is that I'm getting information on players now. So I know a couple guys' names now. Davion Jackson. You got Jimenez Fox from the Cardinals. Jackson's from the Bearcats. Who else? You got Deron, who's a corner on the Warhawks. Very, very good player. You got a couple guys that just their names kept popping up. Jaquan Bromell had a hell of a catch. I mean, when I saw it in person, I was like, man, he caught that. I mean, he got bumped. He separated from the defender. The ball came in. It was off target. It was inside, but he's 6'6". He laid out, tossed the ball on his fingertips. The ball was halfway through his hand. Kept it off the ground, landed, pulled it in. And he was in the back of the end zone. I mean, when he hit the floor, he slid out of the end zone, out of bounds. Great, crazy play. It's just one of those. I can't believe that we're playing semi-pro football plays like that. That's a play that you could see somebody making on Sundays. Seriously, like that type of catch is a tough catch. There's nothing you could do to stop that. The defender was in the right position. He put hands on the receiver. He forced him off his line. Only thing that he could have did better was flipped his hips and found the ball. I mean, that like Quan was not supposed to catch that crazy catch. Then you got Jimenez Fox. I mean, I would love to know if this guy runs in 40. He's number 2 in the top 10 plays, and the dude just, I mean, straight off the line of scrimmage, he goes right by the corner. Safety is freaking 20 yards over the top and still gets burned. Still, how you 20 yards deep and you still get smoked? That's tough. That's tough. Dude's gotta be a burner. They got a lot of good receivers. Talking to him, found out that that team has a lot of shamrocks, especially on offense. Now, people keep trying to discredit them. People keep trying to discredit the Cardinals. They keep trying to say, "Oh yeah, they're shamrocks and they're Taunton Gladiators and they're Boston Bandits and they're all these good." I think they Rhode Island Cowboys. They're everybody you can find in 3A football and ECFL, but they're all the backups. Mm, I don't know. If they're the backups, those teams are really freaking good. If they're the backups, those teams are so nasty. So nasty. But all right, the top 10 plays is out. That's great, right? I think when you talk about Singapore football, you gotta ask the question of like, how do I find information? Because we talked about it before. If you look up the mass charges, right? If you go on Facebook and you try to find the mass charges, you can't. You go to Google and you try to find the mass charges, you can't. You go to YouTube and try to find the mass charges, you can't. They're not on TikTok. They're not on Instagram. You can't find them. They exist. The only way that you're gonna find them now is if you Google CT Falcons versus mass charges. Then you'll find them. So I think the whole point of the show and the whole point of the top 10 plays is just exactly what I said. The whole point is to just create a situation where people can find out about leagues, they can find out about teams, they can find out about games, they can find out about you know what's happening. Now we got the top 10 plays. That's great. What else can we do? I brought up the idea that maybe we could take a page out of the book of destroying, right? Maybe we can do like 1v1s. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. I mean, I don't know. A lot of these kids these days they play in these 7-on-7 tournaments, and the 7-on-7 tournaments was born when I was in high school. So we used to do full pad, straight up cracking everybody tournaments. They were tournaments. That's really what they were. But they were called camps. Right? They were called whatever school was hosting it. It was New Rochelle High School. I mean, that camp was called Champions Camp. But I heard of like New Canaan Camp. I've heard of Husky Camp. I've heard all these different names of these different camps. Basically, what it was an open invitation. You had the address. You showed up with your football team. You brought your pads. It was multiple days. You might start on Friday, where everybody was just in uppers, and you would go light, and it would be early whistle. Then on Saturday, it would be full pads, but the quarterback can't hit. And then on Sunday, you would probably play 2 quarters against one team, 2 quarters against another team. I mean, in Champions Camp, I think we did like 30 plays, but it was full out. Quarterback can get smacked, running backs getting smacked. You trying to score touchdowns like it's a game. I think I only had maybe a year or 2 in Champions Camp. The very next year, they were like, well, it's too dangerous. We don't want guys hitting that early. The rules in the state are changing. So you guys can have Champions Camp no more. And I don't know. I guess it reverberated around the country that football players were dying from heat exhaustion. They were dying from concussions. You had the movie Concussion come out that talked about head injuries. You had the NFL kind of backtracking on a lot of things and saying, "Oh, we didn't know, but we did know." And I think in the effort to protect the kids, I don't know. I'm a football player, so I say it's a mistake. I say it was a mistake. I feel like if you're from Westchester and you play football and you hear the word Champions Camp, you know what time it was. And it's kind of like a badge of honor. Anybody that ever went to Champions Camp, it's like a badge of honor. As a matter of fact, Low HUD wrote this really cool, like top 5 players in Westchester, top 5 up and coming players. I had made a play in Champions Camp where I was playing linebacker, timed the snap, jumped over the center's head, chased the quarterback down, didn't sack him, but he ended up throwing a pick, I think. And I had a really good camp. I mean, I caught a couple passes out the backfield, went for like 40 yards. I had some carries that were looking pretty good. And they wrote this whole nice little story on me talking about I was one of the top guys to watch out for and all of this stuff. But that would have never happened if we didn't have Champions Camp. Now they found a way around it. They started doing the 7-on-7 camps. Even when I was in high school, as I was going out, the 7-on-7 camps were becoming like an every other week thing. It was like 2 every month at least. And we were traveling a lot to do it. But it cost money and it cost time. And players start to become less aggressive as far as hitting because you just spread out. And again, anybody that's watching that wants to jump in, have a conversation, want to talk about this, hit me up on Facebook in my inbox. Just let me know you want to jump on. I'll get you a link so that you can join. Uh, yeah, the 7-on-7 scene is just more of this, especially for defensive players. Like you got to take a certain angle in order to hit a guy. It's very different from just having to put 2 hands on him. You know, and if a guy's running around in front of you, you really want to cut him off to the ball. But if you guys are playing 7-on-7, you don't want to cut him off. That's an easy knee injury. Easy knee injury. At the very least, it's an ankle sprain. If this guy goes up and comes down the wrong way, and you're trying to avoid him now because you took the right angle, but I got to slow down because we don't have no pads on. Like it sucks. It really sucks. I don't really like 7-on-7s as a way of preparing for your football season, but that's what it became because high schools could not get on the field in pads anymore. 3-a-days were limited to 2-a-days, and then at one point it was limited to 2.5 days. And high school coaches just gave up on it. Now I hear that there's no such thing as 2-a-days anymore. Guys practice once a day for 5 days, 2 weeks before the season. I mean, we used to live at high school. We got up out our beds at 7 o'clock in the morning, got dropped off at 8. We was at our school from 8 until 7 p.m. for 3 weeks before the season started. So really bad move, but it gave birth to YouTube football channels where guys go to these different 7-on-7 camps and either kids are participating and they have somebody following with a camera, or you got these names that are following and reacting. You know, you got NFL players going and watching. You got guys commenting and hyping everything up. Pretty cool. So, I mean, you got to ride the wave sometimes. I mean, we got plenty of football players that are playing semi-pro that play flag football. If you play flag football, it can't be too much harder for you to put together a 7-on-7 team and start a 7-on-7 tournament. You know, they got the UA7 league. I think it might also be known as 7FL, where it's 7-on-7 down in Philly and South Jersey, the same area that the NEAFL is in. These guys get together, no pads, no shoulder pads, no helmet or head covering at all. They just get out there and they play straight up tackle football. Straight up. I mean, they running dudes over. They out there chop blocking and tackling in piles with no equipment. No equipment. They running full speed. Crazy to me, but apparently I heard that there's some big money involved. If you win the tournament, you get a whole lot of money, which is cool. You know, congrats, kudos to those guys. They've been featured on Sports Center. They've been featured on Barstool Sports. They're all over Instagram. But that's just the crazy nonsense of today with social media. Is that something that's so not safe? I mean, we complain about head injuries with regular football, helmets, shoulder pads, knee pads, $700 helmet. It has its own suspension. It's got air bladders. It's got specialized, head covering with extra padding and cushions, specialized face masks to take away the vibrations. And you still are suffering from CTE. You still have concussions. You still have guys getting knocked out. People have no problem, crapping on the NFL, crapping on college football. But when they see guys go out, no pads, just smack each other, like this is like we're in fifth grade at lunchtime and we playing in the fifth grade Super Bowl because next year is sixth grade. Like the dudes is out there trying to kill each other. I mean, 50 grand, 70 grand, that's a lot of money. I'd probably kill a nigga for 70 grand too, but I'm not getting the full 70. I'm splitting this pot with seven other dudes. So um I don't know, it's not worth it. But people blow that up. People like watch that all day. Meanwhile, you got these really great, talented football players who either just school wasn't for them, had an injury, had a car accident, mom got sick, dad got sick. Maybe they just figured it out late. Maybe they didn't start playing football till late. But these guys are just super talented. They're out there playing semi-pro. Nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it. So we're gonna do our part. It's really stressful. It's really tough. Like right now, my son is probably in bed, quiet for the first time. He started preschool this week. Monday was his first day, official day. And instead of hanging out with him, making sure he's getting ready for school, I'm here just trying to bring some awareness. And I'm not the only guy, right? I'm not the only guy out there doing a live talk show. I'm not the only guy out there putting out highlight tapes. You got Eric Tesaro and Tez TV. I mean, the guy comes out to almost all of the Falcons games. He does high school football games. He does the CT Mustangs, the CT Panthers. I've seen him, do the Hartford Rebels and the Bulls. I don't know if they're the Hartford Bulls or CT Bulls. Um, I mean, the guy's just all over the place, and we've offered him money plenty of times to do what he does. He goes out, he tapes the games, he works for NBC. High quality film. I mean, really high quality. He zooms in. He's got a steady hand. He follows the ball the best he can. He comments on the games. His first number of videos, he didn't really talk too much. As time is going on, he starts to talk a little more. So he comments on the games, comments on some of the big plays. He tells you who some of the guys are, and it's all for free. I mean, you can't beat that. The guy just does it out of the goodness of his heart. He has a YouTube channel. Please go follow it. Eric Tesaro, Tesauro. Um, I think it's Eric with a K, if I'm not mistaken, Erik. Tez TV. He's also on Facebook. If you follow any of the teams in the IFA or you follow the CT Falcons in the IFA, at least you'll see at least one video of his. God does it out the goodness, the kindness of his heart, but he travels to the games, sets his camera up, makes sure that he's always prepared. He tracks the games and then he goes home and he does it over and over and over again. There are people out at this level that probably should be commended, probably should, be financially rewarded or at least recognized for the great things that they do. We've got some photographers. I mean, we've got some photographers that takes live photos, like in action snaps of what we're doing on the field, and it's like professional quality. It's like professional level. I mean, it's similar to some of the snaps that you see on Sundays. Only difference is it's not this huge stadium with sponsors in the back and hundreds of other photographers, and it's not the logos, but if you just look at the quality of the picture, incredible, incredible. I mean, it's just a lot, and people aren't privileged to it. Crazy thing is that football is one of the most watched sports in the world, and even small pockets of football fans can support leagues like the UFL, a developmental league where guys getting paid a decent salary to pay. They are playing to get a decent salary and potentially move on to a higher professional level like the CFL where they can make millions or the NFL where they can make multi-millions, right? We got those same guys right here in semi-pro, but then it goes to the conversation of the quality. So that's why I kind of started off the podcast with looking at some of the plays that work at the NFL level and don't work. It kind of sucks. It's almost the same idea. So if you ever played high school football or you ever had a kid that played high school football or known somebody, you know that they could be the best football player you've ever seen in your life, and they still won't have enough talent to play in the NFL. They still won't have enough talent to play at a Division One AA school or even a Division Two school. Some of these guys that you think are really, really good football players are not. They're just the best that you've ever seen. And when you put them in a bigger population with other really, really good football players, that's when you start to see what their talent level truly is. And it sucks because you get these guys who are great athletes, and the best college that they can go to is Toledo. And they will go to Toledo and they'll break records and they'll be all conference, all American, and they'll be one of the greatest players that Toledo's ever seen, and they'll never even get a shot at the NFL. Never even get a shot because at first the problem is that in high school you're not playing against enough great talent to really see where you stand. But then as you get to college and you go through college and you get to the end, now you're not playing enough of the great competition in order to see where you really stand. So at first the problem is you don't see enough. Now is that you're not a part of that small minority like the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac 12. Those four conferences dominate college football as far as guys playing at the next level. You really need to be able to play against those top talents in order to really see where you stand, where you stack up. I think we have that same issue in semi-pro. And that's the reason why not enough guys are getting out of semi-pro, especially the young guys, especially the 20-year-olds, the 18, 19-year-olds playing semi-pro, the 25-year-olds that still got time, still have the opportunity. They're not getting out of semi-pro because they're not playing enough of the top competition. They're not playing on enough teams that are coaching them, teaching them, putting them up against other great teams. In semi-pro, everybody's chasing a ring that they never got. And it taints the game a little bit because instead of trying to play in a league where your team will be the best team in that league, owners and coaches, GMs should be trying to put their teams in leagues that are more competitive so that they can get better quality players. They can drive the level of talent in their team forward. They can get better sponsorship. They can get more fans. Like semi-pro organizations sometimes work backwards. People don't want to come see your team score 70 points on a bad team. They don't. It might be great for the girlfriend and the mom of the guy who gets 4 or 5 touchdowns. It might be cool for that player because then he goes and says, yo, I had 4 touchdowns this weekend. Look at my clips. But for everybody else, that shit sucks. Let's just be real. Like, if you're watching an NFL game and the Tampa Bay Bucks are blowing the Atlanta Falcons, my team, out of the water 31 zip, you're going to turn it off. You're not going to sit through the commercials. You're not going to watch the rest of the game. You're going to wait for the highlights to come out on SportsCenter so you can catch up on what might have potentially happened. But you're not going to watch the rest of the game. You know what? It's so crazy. You're not even going to watch the rest of the game just off on an offshoot attempt that maybe the Falcons overcome this deficit and they make history by putting up 40 unanswered points. Like, you're not even going to watch it for that. You're just going to be like, oh, I missed that. That's crazy. But I saw the highlights. I mean, it's no different in semi-pro. People want to see great games. I personally have never gone to a semi-pro game and watched a semi-pro game until last year when I heard this crazy story about a first-year team in New Milford putting together a team, going to the national championship, winning it in their first year. Now they're in the ECFL. They moved from Danbury to New Milford, and they're playing this team, the Marlboro Shamrocks, who used to be a national championship team every year. Then they took a hiatus, and then they came back, and now it's their first year back, and now they're a crazy team. Oh, by the way, they're both undefeated. They're both great teams, and they're playing like 20 minutes from your house. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going. I want to see that. Like, I've never been to a semi-pro game. But once I heard the story of what was going on, I was like, yeah, I got to go see that. And I went and I paid and I sat in the stands and I had a great time. I've been to NFL games, I've been to NCAA football games, played football all my life. I never had as much fun watching a football game until I went to that New Milford Fire Marlboro Shamrocks game one last year in the ECFL. That was a great game. It was fun. It was exciting. There was some talented dudes out there that I was like, dang, I gotta work harder. Like, that dude's nice. I looked that dude up. I'm like, oh, he went there. He did this. He played. Oh, damn, that dude is nice. Like, nobody wants to see you go into a league that's not talented. That nobody wants to look at your schedule and go, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to that game because I'm off that weekend. And then they get ready to go to the game and they check and they find out that the team that you were supposed to play forfeited and they no longer exist. Now I'm like, oh, well, I was gonna go to the game, but I see that you guys are not playing. And then you go, oh no, last minute we got a game. They coming. Nah, I'm sorry, dude. And then after that, that guy might never come to watch another football game. But if everything was in order and he came down and you knocked the socks off, you had hot dogs and hamburgers, you had a food truck out there, you had the fireworks go off, you had the smoke, you had security. The teams came out, they looked great, they played great. You had the announcer, you had the scoreboard on, everything worked like a real great football game. Promise you that guy comes back to watch another football game. Promise you. I put money on it. That guy comes back to watch another one of your football games. So that's a conversation for another day. I will say this. We had an interesting question asked on Facebook a few days ago. One league's owner popped a question to another league's owner on Facebook and said, why don't you just join my league? Like, why don't we just join forces? I popped the question to those guys and said, why don't you both join forces with the ECFL, which is an even bigger league, which would create even more conferences, which would create even more competition. It would make the logistics even better. You would have these long games like, now let's talk logistics. The Falcons traveling to the Seacoast Warhawks. I live in Connecticut. I live in southwestern Connecticut. And even I'm not that far south. I'm an hour from Greenwich, which is basically the border of New York. The game is 3 hours and 20 minutes with no traffic for me. So it's pretty far. We got some guys on the team that live in Albany, New York. The game's 3.5 hours for them. If you're anywhere in Westchester, the game is probably 4 hours almost for you. Hartford, even if you leave from Hartford, Connecticut, the game is still a few hours. I mean, it's really on the border of Maine. So that's pretty far. It's a far commute for a football game. We tried to get a bus. Our owners, our coaches did the right things. They said, hey, we got a game. It's going to be pretty far. We're going to take a bus. Get the money in. This is how much it costs. Tell me who's going. Tell me who's not. We ended up getting enough guys for a bus, but everybody waited too late. And somebody said to me, oh, well, these guys living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, but she didn't just pop this on us a paycheck ago. Like they gave us 3 weeks advance notice. Like you had time to get your money up. And I mean, if you saved $8 or $9 a week, you would have had enough money to get on the bus. Get the bus. So now guys got to drive. I know the team they went and rented vans, so they're gonna put a certain amount of guys in one van, a certain amount in another. I mean, it's just horrible. So when you think about better leagues, better competition, better travel, I think one of the things you got to think about is better conferences. You got to have guys in conferences where they're not too far from each other. Your furthest game might be 2.5 hours. That's not too bad. That's still a good travel and a good amount of distance so that you don't have teams stealing players from each other. That's another issue. You don't want to have it where two teams are so close to each other that there's not enough talent for either team to be really good. You want to give everybody a fair shot at being good, but you also want to have enough teams in that area where you can fill out a conference or a division. Just interesting things to think about. So listen, we're going to end the show here. I think it's just that time of year where it's hot outside. People have a lot of things going on in their lives. Kind of tough to get people to just jump on the show. So I know tonight the Bleezies had their talk show. Of course, this is going to be posted on YouTube, so guys can always go back and watch it. But kind of been busy trying to do a couple other things, branch out, talking to a lot of people. Kind of just went away from some of the ideas that I kind of talked about, we might talk about today. Just wanted to open it up for conversation. A lot of guys said they wanted to get on the show, talk about the top plays, talk about the rankings. Some guys are upset about the rankings. We'll talk about that again. It's about people to argue with. We're going to try to get some of these commissioners, some of these league owners on the line. Listen, we definitely got to talk about the Cardinals and the Patriots game. I'm going to try to get some guys on to talk about that game. We got to talk about the Cardinals and the Warhawks game. And we're going to have to talk about the Falcons and the Warhawks game this weekend. It just so happens that the league had enough competition amongst the top teams that it's pretty easy to kind of project out what might happen. So we definitely want to have those conversations. But we're starting to get into the ECFL now. We're starting to get into summer ball. We're going to start transitioning a little bit. We're going to start having conversations about the IFA, the TFL, and the NEAFL, which are all spring leagues. And then we're going to start transitioning into the ECFL, the MLF, the EFA, maybe even the NEFL, which are all summer and fall leagues pretty soon. But wish the Falcons luck. We need it. Playing a great team. We got a very far distance to travel. Again, thank you to everybody that came out and supported the show and watched the show. Definitely want to get more conversations, more. We're gonna have some more interviews where we interview a few people. A lot more things to come in the future. So again, thank you guys so much for coming out. Sorry for getting a late start. Again, sponsors. If you want to get in touch with players, if you want to sponsor the show, you want to sponsor any of the teams, just let me know. Hit me up on Facebook. You got my number if you rewind back in the show. Always looking for support for the players, for the leagues, things like that. Next week, we'll try to get some guys on the show so we can have some interviews and have some interesting conversations. I kind of got the top plays down a little bit now. It was tough to figure out how to do graphics and get everything up and running. If you haven't seen that, go to the 60 for 60 channel, like, subscribe, you know, click the bell for notifications. Definitely follow the channel. Definitely watch the video. It's an interesting video. There was a lot of top plays that happened over the last few weeks. Kind of just try to throw in the best plays from the last few weeks. Got a bunch of guys that sent more clips in, which is great. We'll have a lot more content for the next few weeks. But yeah, now that I've got that kind of set and I figured out how to, put the videos together, we can kind of just pop them in and out. I think the hardest part was just writing the script and then getting it down pat. I don't really talk that fast, but I had to talk pretty fast to get through the video. So um, that was interesting. But now that I got it down, I think it'll be much quicker. So I could devote a little more time to the podcast, and also devote some more time to my family and to my job and to my life outside of football. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you for watching. Next week, I am definitely going to start on time next week. 2 weeks in a row, I was late. I apologize for that. Next week, we're definitely going to start at 9 o'clock, get done by about 10 o'clock. So thank you for joining the show tonight. Appreciate all the love and support. Definitely want to have some conversations in the future. Might even do just like a pop up, like jump on here and just talk your crap type of live. Probably on Friday. Probably do something like that. We might start doing little segments like that. So thank you again for joining. And I see you at the 50. Take care, guys. Have a good night.